There's this really wild thing about artificial intelligence. It's like it has these superhuman, godlike powers. But at the same time, it can be just shockingly fragile and unreliable. So that's the big conflict we're going to unpack today. How do we get all that incredible power without the frustrating and sometimes pretty dangerous flaws?
All right, so let's get into it. Where does this big trust problem actually come from? Because before we can even dream of a solution, we've got to figure out what's really broken. And we're not just talking about a funny mistake here and there. This is something way deeper in how these models think, especially when the stakes are really high. And this is the perfect example of the paradox we're dealing with. It's just wild, right? On one hand, an AI can write poetry like Shakespeare, hitting all the complex, creative notes. But then you give it a basic logic puzzle a kid could solve, and it just completely falls apart. That huge gap between just copying something and actually getting it, that's the real problem.
So why does this happen? Well, here's the kicker. These AIs learn from, well, the entire internet. They swallow everything, the good, the bad, and the just plain wrong. So yeah, they learn that chameleons change color for camouflage because that's what everyone says online, even though that's not really the main reason. They're not stating a fact, they're just echoing the most popular opinion they've seen.
Okay, so obviously people have tried to fix this. Developers have been building these things they call guardrails to try and keep the AI in line. But, and this is a big but, these fixes are kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone. They're just not cutting it. And I really love this quote because it hits the nail on the head. Think about the usual fixes, things like RAG or fancy system prompts. You're not really commanding the AI, you're asking nicely, hey, could you please not make stuff up? You're just crossing your fingers and hoping it listens, but there's absolutely no guarantee. It's a game of chance, and that's not good enough. So let's dig into that a little more. RAG, for instance, is great. It can give the AI all the right information, but it doesn't mean the AI knows what to do with it or how to integrate it. And writing a super detailed prompt, a lot of the time, you're just fighting a losing battle against what the model already believes from all its training. You see, both of these are just patches slapped on the outside. And here is a fantastic, almost painful example of this in action. You tell the model a simple fact. The knowledge is right there, but then you ask the opposite question, and nothing. It can't make that simple logical leap that if A is southeast of B, then B must be northwest of A. It has the data, but it can't connect the dots. It's not actually reasoning. Okay, so if the outside-in approach is a dead end, what's next? Well, this is where it gets really, really cool. What if, instead of trying to patch the AI from the outside, we could actually go inside its virtual mind while it's in the middle of thinking?
This idea has a name: runtime intervention. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about surgically editing the AI's behavior as it's happening. So this isn't about catching a bad answer at the end. No, this is about getting in there in the middle of the thought process and steering it in the right direction before it even makes a mistake. And this formula right here, that's the surgical tool. Now, I know it might look a little intimidating, but the concept is actually pretty simple. Think of it like a pair of noise-canceling headphones for the AI's brain. It pinpoints the signal for a bad behavior, say the urge to hallucinate, and it just subtracts it. It removes that noise, leaving only the clear, correct thought behind. It's incredibly precise.
So, how does it work in practice? It's kind of like a three-step dance. First, you have to identify the bad habit you want to get rid of, like making stuff up. Second, you find the part of the AI's internal network that's responsible for that habit, its feature vector. And then, step 3, you use that formula to just turn the volume down on that one specific thing in real time. The big aha moment for all this came from a really interesting discovery. Researchers found a specific feature inside a model that acted like a censorship switch. When they cranked it up, the model would clam up and refuse to answer certain questions. But when they turned it down, poof, the answer appeared. That proved it. It showed that these behaviors weren't some mysterious black box. They were like dials you could literally turn up and down.
Okay, so the theory sounds amazing, right? But what about the results? What actually happens when you do this? Well, let me tell you, it's not just a small bump. The difference is staggering. Just look at this chart. This tells the whole story. You take a normal, off-the-shelf model, and on this factual test, it's right only about 1/5 of the time. Not great. But then you apply this intervention. You turn down that repeat common myth style, and boom,
The accuracy jumps from 21% all the way up to 70%. That's not just better, that's a whole different ballgame. And it gets even crazier. Remember that direction puzzle that the old model totally failed? Well, on a whole test full of tricky logic problems just like that one, this new governed model scored, get this, 96.5%. This is huge. It means we're not just feeding it facts, we're actually fixing how it thinks. This is also a game changer for safety. Look at this. On the left, a normal AI gets hit with a jailbreak prompt and immediately starts spitting out harmful stuff. It's easily fooled. But the model on the right, the one with the intervention, it sees the trick for what it is. It recognizes the bad intent and just says, nope, not going to do that. It's strong where the other models are just fragile.
So, this is way more than just some neat experiment. This level of control, this is the key. This is what could finally make AI safe and reliable enough for the really important stuff. Industries where being mostly right just doesn't fly.
I mean, just think about it for a second. If you're a bank, you need to know your AI isn't missing a single compliance issue. If you're a news outlet, your AI summaries have to be perfectly accurate. If you're in pharma, you get the picture. For these folks, this audit-grade reliability isn't a nice to have, it's everything. And this quote just nails it. Everything we've done before was about trying to fix the context, giving the AI better facts, better instructions. This is different. This is about fixing the reasoning. It's like we've stopped just treating the symptoms, and we're finally curing the disease. Which, of course, brings up a really important question for the future. When the stakes are this high, can you really have the company that builds the AI also be the one that says, yep, it's safe? It feels like there's a huge need for a trusted, independent third party to come in and verify that these systems are actually behaving the way they're supposed to. No conflicts of interest. And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. This kind of technology is just unbelievably powerful. The power to go in and tweak an AI's thought process is a total game changer. So the question for all of us is, now that we have this kind of control, what are our new responsibilities? How do we make sure we wield this power wisely?